everyone and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Matilda and I make videos about books, reading, writing and other things that tickle my fancy. I'm going to preface this by saying that I am in a rocking chair and I'm trying very hard to not make it rock, but you know, if you've seen me with spinny chairs, you know that this is probably going to be a problem. Today I'm here to talk to you about NaNoWriMo and how that experience went for me and what my plans are moving forwards, because apparently I now have plans that I was unaware of before this point. So let's go. So I am filming this clip on December 6th. It is a Friday and NaNoWriMo has been over for almost a week at this point. If you followed my vlogs for November, you probably saw the very many ups and downs I had, both regarding how many words I got done in a day, but also what my story was. It is currently called Going Up in Flames, but that's probably not the title it's going to keep. But basically it is a new adult story about witches that are being sent to internment camps sort of thing for conversion therapy-ish. Now the authorities are telling the general public that these internment camps, conversion therapy camps, whatever equivalent we want to have, are good. They are telling the public that these are good, they will make witches less dangerous, and it will be all good for everyone involved. However, they have the ulterior motive that they are kind of wanting to use the witches as weapons, and the witches who are actually in these facilities are not treated well. They are not treated accordingly to what the authorities are telling the public that they're being treated as. Does that make sense? Basically, we follow a main character named Alyssa who is sent to one of these facilities where she is put through torture and mind fuckery and brainwashing and all those kinds of things, and they're trying to break her down, her and many others, break them down and figure out how their powers are triggered and how the powers can be used to aid, you know, the authorities, the corrupt government, because hey, dystopia, and also brainwashing these witches into thinking that their powers are bad and using these witches to bring in more and more witches so they can convert more and more witches. And Alyssa is thrown into this and has to navigate this whole facility, finding new friends, having to try to rescue others, and it's a whole big thing. Now this is book 1 in a duology and I did reach the end of it, the end of the first draft of it. And I'm now in a position where I feel like I should write the first draft of book 2 before I go back and look at book 1. But I have a couple problems. First of all, I have the problem of I faded to black whenever there was going to be torture. I didn't know how to write it. I have some pretty good ideas for what the torture will be and how it's going to work. And I think I've gone into that in a previous video. Otherwise, I can talk about that in the future. But basically, I didn't know how to write it and it felt like a very intense thing to write. And that wasn't something that I wanted to like word war or sprint my way to, which was how I conducted most of November as per usual. And it wasn't actually the fact that I didn't want to sprint my way through these torture scenes. It was more so that I didn't know how to write them. I actually had an outline this year and in that I had put in things go downhill, things get worse, treated badly, but I hadn't specified what kind of torture would be sprinkled in, what she would be subjected to, and that is something I'm going to need to figure out moving forwards. I also had this scene towards the very end of the book where there was an escape happening. They tried to escape this facility and everyone that the reader cares about got out. And I feel like that won't work. I feel like someone has to either be killed at that point or get left behind for the story to get more oomph and for the stakes to be raised. And when I was finishing it up, I didn't know who to leave behind, which is bad, but I just knew that they were going to escape. There was going to be this escape scene and I had my outline and then I re-outlined the end with Marcus in the last couple of days and then wrote it. And so I knew they were going to escape, but I didn't know exactly how that was going to go down. And my third problem is also that there is a bit of a scavenger hunt, both in the beginning of the book and the end of the book, where they follow a set of clues to get some answers and get somewhere. And they follow these clues and they get what they need and they get to the place, but I don't know what the clues are. I don't know what the secret password is. And it was just written in a very, very vague way at this point. So I definitely have things to work on in book 1, but I am thinking that drafting book 2 might still be a good idea, because then I will see what the entire overarching story needs. And when I then go back and edit book 1, I can sprinkle those things in. It's easy to put in like foreshadowing and stuff that way. And second of all, I have a number of things to put into book 2. I feel like it's on the thin side because I have the overarching plot problem, big plot issue that, you know, follows, that isn't finished in book 1 and that follows into book 2. And then I have a few other things that are problematic as well, or problematic is not the right word, but things that will drive the plot forward. But I do feel like there's less conflict in book 2, and they don't need to be, you know, entirely equal, but I do feel like there is more that I will need to put into book 2 later on. But maybe it's still a good idea to draft book 2 now and then look at them both as a whole afterwards. I'm not entirely sure what I want to do, but I am considering doing it that way. And I think it might work. I hope it will work, but we shall see. Now, I guess I should actually tell you how many words I wrote in November. And I'm going to put my graph on the screen so you can see the highs and the lows of this month. But I wrote 68,849, I believe. I will have the correct number on the screen. And that is a lot of words. With that said, though, given the fact that I didn't write the torture scenes and I potentially skimmed over a few other things as well, we're looking at 89,000 when it's done at this point, you know? Does that make sense? Like, my story is not complete at these 68,000 words. But with that said, once I've added in the torture scenes and done a few rounds of edits, I might still have shrunken it. We'll see. I don't feel like I wrote a whole lot of filler, but there were certainly scenes that lasted a lot longer than I thought they would. And that was something I found very interesting this month, because a lot of the scenes early in the book, in the first act of the book, were actually very short. Most of them, they averaged somewhere between 1,500 to 2,000 words, I want to say. And the very, very last ones, the end of Act 3, they were upwards of 3,500, 4,000 words. So I definitely added more words in the further into the story I got per scene. And that is also something I think I mentioned in one of the vlogs, but something I realize every time I start a new project. It doesn't matter if I'm pantsing it, it doesn't matter if I'm planning it, it doesn't matter at all like that. But I find that when I start it, it always takes me a while to get into it. And I guess that makes sense because obviously it takes you a while to get into it. But also the further into the story I get, the easier it is to find the voice, the easier it is to describe the environment and the setting and the characters and everything else that's going on. And I just feel like those parts do get lengthier, but they also get better. And I'm sure those two are linked, but I do feel like the language flows better and that it's more enjoyable to read. Something I mentioned in one of the vlogs was that I actually took a scene that I really enjoyed. And that was like one of the first scenes I felt that way about in this project. I took that scene, it was like 1,300 words, and I sent it off to 2 friends and to Marcus to read. And I got very good feedback on it. And it was very reassuring that I was on the right track and that what I was doing was good. I did make the mistake the other day of going back to read that again. And while I do still like it, and I like the ending of it, I got a little too caught up on the word choices in the beginning of it. And it didn't feel as good as I wanted to praise it as when I'd first written it. But there are good things in it. The overall picture of it and the scene, the emotions that are going on in that scene are just really good. And I'm very pleased with that scene. And I had more of those throughout the book as well, the further into it I got, which is also really reassuring. And I just really hope that I will like them when I read them next time. But I guess my takeaways from this NaNoWriMo, apart from having written a pretty decent first draft of a story, I hope. We'll figure that out once we get to the editing stage of it. My takeaways are that I am extremely stubborn, because if you haven't been here for a while, or if you've missed all of this, I had surgery in early November and I'm still recovering. I am still in a boot and I have been extremely tired, and a lot of my energy has gone to healing, like not voluntary energy, but just a lot of the energy in my body has gone to healing my foot. And there were just tons of things going on in November. Like, I've been pretty stationary on the couch over there, but things have happened regardless of my control over them or not. I lost my grandma towards the end of the month. I had several days where I was just too exhausted to write. And I did struggle a few times during the month going, will I actually have enough of this story to get to 50k? I didn't falter on the getting to 50k at all bit, because I am way too stubborn to not go for that. But I wasn't sure I was going to have 50,000 words of this story. So I wasn't sure that this story was going to be what got me to those 50k. And then I got to 68, almost 69,000 words. So clearly I was wrong about that. But I guess my biggest takeaway is that I am extremely stubborn. That is not news to me. I have done very stubborn things with Nano in previous years as well. Last year I think I only had like 700 words on the 16th of Nano, and I still won. But I think that was my biggest takeaway. And also the fact that things will always happen outside of your control, and that is something that isn't just for Nano, that's, you know, life. But I had plans towards the end of October, beginning of November, that I'm gonna write a lot of words in the beginning, and I'm gonna do all of these things to make sure I get to 50k on time, because I knew I was gonna have surgery at some point in November, but I hadn't gotten my date yet. And then on the afternoon of the 31st of October, I found out that it was gonna be the following Monday, so the 4th. And that kind of put that entire weekend off course. So we had to do like a lot of bit of prep at home, buy a bunch of groceries, do some laundry, clean, just to make sure most of that was already done, so that Marcus wouldn't have to do it all, because I wouldn't be able to, and also just so it was done in general. And that resulted in me being behind on day 2 of Nano, when I had intended to write like 10k on day 2 of Nano. So things happen that are outside of your control. I do also want to say though that I was very fortunate this year in that I had Marcus to take care of everything around the house, because I have not been able to. I have been resting and writing and procrastinating, clearly, but I didn't have to worry about grocery shopping. I didn't have to worry about making time for dinner or, you know, doing a load of laundry. I didn't have to do those things because Marcus did. Had I not had my surgery, I would have definitely helped out more at home. But it's an interesting balance there, because I'm very grateful I got my surgery, but that resulted in me not being able to do a lot of things at home, which meant that Marcus had to do them all. But I'm also grateful to not have had to do anything at home. But I would have liked to help out. It's this big whole thing. Also for this year's Nano, I was not working. I was not traveling. I was not doing any such things, which gave me a lot of time to write. But I was also recovering from surgery, and I was in a lot of pain for a lot of it. And so just because I had a lot of time on my hands didn't mean that I could utilize all of it. And my last takeaway from November is that I have new ideas. I'm going to write another story that I guess I actually had the idea for it in early December, so I don't know if it counts for November really, but I now have a new story that I want to write, which is sort of a multi-perspective and like intertwining fates, a little bit like Love Actually, like those kinds of movies where there are several different characters and they're all interlinked somehow, but they all have their own stories. I have one of those going. It's very Christmassy, and I kind of want to get it written soon because it is the season and all that. But I also want to work on book 2, and I have yet to outline either one of them, and I don't really know what I'm doing with my life. But I guess a thought I've had previous years still rings true, in that once I get started and once I get creative and I write something, I usually get more ideas. And if not for that project, then for something else. It's not a guarantee, but I do find that it happens a lot, and I'm grateful, but I also now have too many stories to work on, because I should also start editing April and Other Fools that I wrote this past summer, because that's been, you know, brewing for a while. I haven't touched it in a couple months, so maybe I should start working on that. But I want to write book 2, but I want to write the Christmas story, and here we are. Now I know a lot of people have already made their Nano wrap-ups and they've gone up way before mine has, But I would still love to hear down below in the comments how NaNoWriMo went for you, if you learned anything, and what your plans are moving forwards. I also know a lot of people haven't really enjoyed Nano this year. There have been some issues with the site. A lot of author tubers, and probably other people as well, have experienced burnout, and there's just been a lot going on generally. But I would love to hear down below how Nano went for you if you participated and what your plans are moving forwards. But I guess that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back with another one soon, so I'll see you then. Bye!